Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Staying Sane. I'm Jay, and here's my partner in crime, Hussein, as
Yeah.
we try to stay sane, looking at all the craziness in the world. Hussein, where do you want to start this week?
Um, One good news from Gaza that we can start off today.
Okay.
That is about that is about Hamas is facing a deep concern about young Gazan citizens, the youth. They are leaving Gaza, looking for better life to the neighboring countries. So that is something which is worrying the Hamas leadership because it's their main their resource, which is human beings, which they can use, recruit, and use for all the nasty things which we see over the world. So they are now facing a concern over that. So it's about a document that was revealed, and it comes following the US President Donald Trump's announcement regarding the Gaza settlement plan. So this is something which is now being deeply discussed and seen as a signal of Hamas waning in power. They're losing their credibility and their support among the Gazans. What do you think? What's the future
I
of
think I
Hamas?
think it's about time. I think Hamas is well, I think Hamas as a force in the region, like as a political force, to put it that way,
Mm-hmm.
running Gaza, I think their days are numbered. However, as I've pointed out before, and as many Israeli journalists have pointed out, Netanyahu doesn't want Hamas to go away because Hamas is a convenient scapegoat for him to distract the Israelis from his own problems. So whether Netanyahu strings them along, we'll have to see. But if they've lost their mandate among the people, which is good, so I think the people are fed up. The people, by and large, want peace. Of course, there's going to be a subset of the population that's been radicalized since the October 7th attacks. But I would, I would debate that that number is going to be, a significant percentage. As with any fundamentalist, it's always a small group, but they tend to be the loudest, so they get the most attention. But I would think it's a good sign that the people are walking away now, whether under some sort of international, I can't remember what the technical term is, but some sort of international watchdog that comes in to oversee and scrutinize the elections, um, and to do like free and fair open elections for some people, to take over the governing of Gaza. But there's going to be, you're going to need some significant infrastructure for that, and a lot of their physical infrastructure is gone, as well as the needing the political infrastructure of having ministries, that are either already set up, that can take over the administration. So I don't know what the state of that is. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a step in the right direction at least. So
Yeah, but at the same time, we can see some of the top diplomats in countries like UAE asking the Hamas leadership to step down and to move away to gain or to see peace in the region. So they have now come up to a voice in that manner, to displace themselves from the power position, so that something will be some sort of peace will be ensuing in that area. So that's also good change. That's what I'm seeing here. And also, if the ceasefire gets extended and there's lasting period of peace or ceasefire, which is now we can see there. In that case, as the borders open towards other neighboring countries like Jordan and Egypt and other places, that's what the document also reveals, that in that case more youth will be trying to escape the place, because the recent attacks which happened afterwards, October 7th, now they are very much concerned about the distraction that has brought in. And we could see another official from last time we discussed about that, a Hamas official who is now residing in Qatar. He was expressing his disavowal of not approving or what happened afterwards, October 7th, and if he had an idea of what would have happened, or what the level, the degree of destruction could be after October 7th, the Israel attacks and all such things happened. In that case, he would not have given a approval for that kind of an attack. So all these, when combined together with the attitude of the growing population, the young population, it's giving a hope. And I think, as you said, this is one way by which the terrorist groups will lose the grip and they will be forced to transform. And this is exactly what a sort of thing which happened with even the PLO during the time of Yasser Arafat, when he even lost the terror ideas, and he was also moving towards more into peace agreements and trying to be more acceptable. So that's one reason why more terrorizing groups like Hamas was forced to come up in the same region, displacing the peaceful factions, because whoever has the best terrorizing equipments and terrorizing techniques, they will have a say in that region. That's how the history says in that whole of Middle East. You can trace back that to even Prophet Muhammad. So that's how it was always, we can see in the area. So in that way, I think Hamas will have to move away with time, or they will be forcefully moved away by the people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I said last week, if they're pragmatic, these guys have skimmed off millions um, in money. So these guys are all
Amen.
multimillionaires. If they were
Yeah.
smart, they'd take the money and go to a neutral country and just, live out their days until the Mossad takes them out. But just, you know,
Okay.
yeah,
Anyway, let's see what happens. Now, there's another news which is from India that I can share here, something related to Hamas. That is, India until now has not officially declared, or has now not proscribed Hamas as a terrorist organization. It's still an official body that represents Gazans. That's how India believe. So now, Hamas leadership was seen taking part in some of the processions and some meetings in the POK region, Pak occupied Kashmir region. So now that is being seen as a threat, and it's now happening more often. And for that reason, India is now approached by Israel to proscribe this Hamas as a terrorist organization. And even many people within India, including myself, we have written to the Home Ministry, to the security officials and the bodies to make this happen, like to proscribe this organization. Because that's one reason why the Indians, the innocent Muslims especially, they are not able to stay away from such terrorist organizations just by thinking that they are some legitimate bodies which is representing a country or a place. And that's one reason why they are still associating with them and empathizing with them. So that's giving them a chance to taste the taste of terrorism. And they're not able to differentiate between what is terrorism and what is the real freedom fight. So I think this will bring a change, because we have seen some of the organizations which was present in our country which got banned, proscribed as terrorist organizations, and that was one way by which we could stop Muslims getting into the hands of these extremists, which they always come up with um, democratic processes. They exploit such things like engaging into politics, engaging with some of the humane causes, and they hijack that and they slowly inject the religious principles into that, and they start shouting La ilaha illallah, or start with Allahu Akbar, and they just hijack it altogether into something that is a problem of the Muslims. So with that, what happens at the end of the day is that Muslims will think that this is all, everything is about uh, the problem of a Muslim. So they were truly successful in doing that. But later on, what happened was the governments, they realized the threat in such things, and they banned literally one big organization, that is Popular Front of India. So that was one reason by which people was able to stop associating themselves directly or indirectly by such organizations. And the same way now, what happens is with Hamas. They are not able to differentiate between Hamas as a terrorist organization or as a democratic association or an organization which is standing for a good cause. So now let's hope they will get a chance to differentiate themselves. That's what we can share from here, from India.
So why is it just like a lack of education in India that they can't, differentiate a terrorist group from a Muslim group?
No, I won't say that. It's how they represent themselves or how they manifest themselves. At the outset, what we can see is that they will be in the forefront of every political bargainings, political movements, and even they will be the representatives of the good cause, human causes. They will be for equality. They will be standing for democracy. They will be shouting for secularism and all. But behind the scene, what happens is they will be talking exactly the opposite, and they will be trying to inject their hidden agenda. And they even published a document which was mentioned as Mission 2047, and that was for Islamization of India, turning India into an Islamic country.
Well, it
So
was previous. I mean, like, the Mughal emperors were Muslim, right? And they were ruling India until the British
this is
basically
nothing related to
took
that.
them out. No, no,
Yeah,
but I'm
this
just
is
saying, but like India already had like Muslim rulers in the past. So what is the
uh,
percentage of Muslims in India? About 20%?
about 20%. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
close to it.
they're the second largest majority after the Hindus?
Second largest. Yeah,
Okay, so like the Jains and the Sikhs are much smaller than
they
the.
are all much smaller. They are the real minorities in India. Even the
Okay.
atheists are the real minorities. Okay, so Muslims are never any minority anymore. Claiming that Muslims are the minority is something which we have to keep aside because they are not the minority. If you look at the religious map, the religion-wise map, you can find even some of the states in India which is majority Muslims. Hindus becoming the second largest religion in some of the states, and in my state, it's almost one third. It's not even half. It's not even 20%. It's almost 30%. So you can imagine 30% of Christians, Hindus, and Muslims. So that's how roughly it makes. And
And
we
do
cannot
they
claim
get
that it's a
along?
minority. Sorry?
Do those three groups get along, or is there a lot of infighting between them?
Infighting, until now, it was not there. But slowly, what we see is that a rise in religious bargaining happens from the end of the Muslims. And with that, with the increased political involvement that they show by raising religious reasons in politics, literally they are degrading the the true secular morals, the principles, and now that is giving a chance for other religions to take up their religion and their identity as their from their religion, and now that is causing a friction in this political landscape. So, if you ask me which religion or which religious group charges the political landscape with religion, posing as a threat to the secularism, it's not the Hindus, it's not the Christians, and it's not any other religion, it's the Muslims. And it's exactly the same with what we see in all other parts of the world. So, there's no difference in that. So, it's just like you just copy paste the process. So, I would say a an exact replica of what is happening in Kerala right now. You can see that in the UK. That is exactly what is going on here. We have another news from UK where we are talking about the Sharia councils in the UK. So now there's a piece that came up in some of the news outlets where they were raising a concern of this increasing in religious guidance or creating legal controversies where hello.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Your
you
video
haven't
stuck.
told.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, you're
okay.
not. You're going through though.
No, okay, it's okay. So this is something like almost 85 Sharia councils are operating across UK. So what they do is they are just running parallel to the legal system, which is already present in the UK, and they are dealing with some of the mostly they are dealing with the family matters and some other things related to the individual rights, and that is causing a problem, especially it is mostly against or it is without any principles of equality, and they are mostly patriarchal rulings, and most disadvantaged people would be the women and children, and especially related to the divorce and custody cases. So when we mention this, we can take 5 or 4 items from this. That is marriage, divorce, property rights, inheritance, and adoption. These are the major areas where we have a secular law in our country. Even in India, we have that. But when it comes to the Muslim population, what happens is they are ruled by a Muslim Sharia law, which we call as the uh, personal law. So this personal law is creating a problem for the women, especially when it comes to the property rights and the marriage and divorce and other things, mainly all these areas. So India is now coming up with an idea of unification of such laws in the name of uniform civil code, because all other group of people, all other communities, they are now governed by mostly by almost equal civil laws, except for the Muslims and some other tribal communities and other people. So now we are trying to unify it. So who comes forward and who comes forward to oppose this is mostly the Muslims. So now that becomes a heated debate where people will be opposing that, and at times it even causes trouble where unification is seen as something which is a threat to the Muslim population, and they are even saying that we should oppose it even by calling for jihad. So this is the way by which they are trying to oppose it. So as a country, it's very difficult to have
Oh, are
two
you back?
system of law. Yeah, I'm not frozen. Something is happening over there. Maybe the play of Allah. Let's seek protection from
I
him.
can't hear you if you're speaking. Oh, there we
Okay.
go. I think we're back. So I don't know.
Anyway,
My screen went blank for both of us, and then I came back, and you froze, and then we both went black, and then so fun stuff.
anyway, so what we see in UK is exactly a similar thing. Like you have parallel Sharia councils running, which causes a trouble, especially for the women and individuals as well as children and all. So now it's gaining a as a movement against this, especially by the right wing leaders, pushing for the closure of such Sharia councils, and maybe in the future, in the coming months, we will see heated debates over that regarding the closure of the legal this Sharia
Yeah, I
councils.
mean,
And
it
yeah,
shouldn't be allowed,
yeah, it
So
shouldn't be allowed in
what
a
what so
yeah.
but then I would assume in
Hmm.
theory that any UK citizen would have recourse to British courts, even if you are Muslim. If your husband drags you to a Sharia court, surely these Muslim women have recourse to the British courts to say, "Hey, I don't accept this Sharia ruling. I want to be protected by the civil law in the UK." So
Yeah. So UK is now paying a price for letting these kinds of Sharia councils to operate in their country, in their soil. Uh, in the beginning, they might be thinking that it's just a madrasa or something, like providing legal assistance or legal advices, especially with regards to the Islamic Sharia, not as something which they will be governed by. Okay, having a body to educate yourself and to govern yourself is entirely different. So it began as a body to educate or to give awareness on Islamic laws, but finally what happened, it culminated as a governing body. That's what we see here. So it's a threat.
yeah,
You have to
well,
abolish it.
hopefully,
There's
I
no
would hope
debate.
that they're going.
Yeah.
I hope they're going to take it seriously. I've seen a number of UK ex-Muslims complaining about the preferential treatment that the Muslim community gets, like the sort of this hands-off attitude by the British government. Oh, we don't want to be accused of Islamophobia, so we let all
Yeah.
these abuses slide. Well, sorry, you're just enabling them to, give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, right? So,
It's not
um,
just by the ex-Muslims, even by the Muslims. They have started complaining about how these rules are affecting their lives. A lot of women, they have come forward and they were speaking to the media. We have a lot of videos over on the right wing medias mostly, where they will be speaking about the marital domestic violence, then multiple marriages and polygamy and child marriages and all such things. It's
And
happening. And
cousin marriage. There was actually an
cousin marriage,
article this
yeah,
week.
cousin marriage.
There was an article this week on
Mm,
the damage is probably the wrong word, but um, that it was done in the UK, and like there's a community. It's mostly Pakistani expats
yeah.
in the UK, and like the cousin marriage is quite common, and they were saying that there are drawbacks to it, like the psychological
Mhm.
and physiological health of the children can be at risk. So
Mm. Yeah.
so
So this is something which is from UK, which we can relate to any country. And this should be a warning for other democratic societies, secular societies, to be wary of, to stop such Sharia councils getting rooted in your country. You have to be careful on that.
was it the UK as well that the Muslim call to prayer was being broadcast, like not like with the PA system was like being broadcast to the whole neighborhood. That I can't remember. I think it was the UK, but I can't remember. Maybe it was Australia that Harris Sultan was talking about it. That
Oh,
one of these Western countries, or at least a city,
I
a
think that's
municipal
one
jurisdiction, they
New
had
York.
allowed, they had allowed the call to prayer to be
Hmm.
broadcast over PA, which really annoyed the hell out of a lot of people. So
Hmm. Okay. So that's from UK.
yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Uh, any news from your part, or shall I
just
proceed with?
just the one story that MPs in Ghana have reintroduced a bill to criminalize um, homosexual behavior, saying it's a 3-year jail term for people who identify as gay and a 5 to 10 years for anyone who's promoting or advocating for homosexual rights. So, say to
Mhm.
Ghana, politely, go fuck yourself. So hopefully that bill's going to fail.
Yeah.
That's pretty, a 10-year jail term for advocating for basic human rights. So that doesn't fly. So,
Hmm.
we at AI and our affiliates in Ghana will be following that story and posting our objections to this bigoted new bill that they're producing or pushing through. So
Hmm. Okay. So another is news is from Pakistan. It's almost a week ago this happened, or not a week, 4 days ago. It's a bomb blast in a seminary in northwest Pakistan, killing 5 worshippers and wounding dozens ahead of Ramadan. And after Ramadan, or after the month, the Ramadan is already on, we will get to hear more such news. Wait for that. But right now, this happened in a pro-Taliban mosque and a seminary, and which is known as a school of terrorism. That's how it is known, because they train the pro-Taliban people. They train youngsters. They can join on Taliban this seminary, and they can
so
qualify
was
as
so was this
terrorists.
like an accident? They were
It's
training the
not an
terrorists
accident.
and there was an accident?
It's something which was targeted on a leader who was praying in that masjid, and he was killed. And along with that, 4 other people were also killed. That's what we know. And this happened just after the Friday prayer. So this is something which we can read from Pakistan, and maybe for the next week we'll get to know more on this. So this is from Pakistan, and one more, which is related to India in a way. You know the temple called the Ayodhya, the Ram Janmabhoomi issue, and all the Babri Masjid, which was demolished, and there was a long debate over the legal battle over that, whether the temple
I
was in the beginning or the masjid was in the beginning, and
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Like it
So yeah,
was like they destroyed a Hindu temple and built a
yeah.
mosque, and then they blew up the mosque, and yeah. Okay, yeah, I
So
remember that
finally,
story.
that was settled. Yeah, finally, that was settled through a court verdict, and they built a a temple over there, and it's called the Ayodhya temple. And now what happened is a person has been arrested by the ATS, the anti-terrorism squad here, by for a plot to attack this temple, this Ayodhya temple. And this is something which is supported by the ISKP. That's what we know. That is the Islamic State of Khorasan province. So they are the people who are supporting this person, and now he's being taken in, and he's facing interrogation, and we'll get to know more on that. Luckily, we could stop the the blast. It didn't happen. So otherwise, just imagine what would have happened. So yeah, this is it.
Yeah, I I'm anticipating
Mm,
if there's any left. So last week, there was a large group. I think it was like 30. I can't remember the number, like 30 or 40 ethnic Uyghurs, the Chinese Uyghur Muslim community in Thailand, and like they've been in jail for like 10 years. And there's been a lot of international humanitarian outcry that they've left these guys in jail for 10 years in squalid conditions. And now uh, the Thai government has sent them back to China to face pretty much certain death. And there was a lot of international outrage that the Thai government sent them back. So instead of
mm,
sending them to a third country, so it'd be, whether some investigative journalists, can tell us that, these returned people have been executed. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there was
mm,
a lot of international outrage that these Uyghurs were sent back to China. So whether
mm,
whether we whether we'll ever find out what happened to them is debatable. As we know, like China's kind of a black hole for news. You know
mm,
we need these investigative journalists. And even then, it's hard to verify the reports. So, but it
mm,
was quite outrageous that one that they were left in jail for so long in these horrid conditions,
mm,
without being charged, and then sent back to probably certain death, if not, you know, re-education camps.
mm.
So
I just wanted to ask you because you live in Thailand, I think so, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So how's the security situations like? I have seen many ex-Muslims moving into Thailand for security reasons.
uh,
So
I
is there
mean,
any
like,
particular
well, I mean,
reason
they
for
had
that?
probably just there's a lot of Russians here too, like especially since the last 3 years of the Ukraine, like the Russian population here is really shot up.
Hmm.
Probably just because like, cost of living here is cheap. The weather, we don't have winter. Even though the
Oh,
Thais call it hits 20 degrees, they call it winter. I'm like, this is summer weather in Canada, but they call it winter. But cost of living is cheap. The food is great. The climate is pretty decent.
maybe
So,
that's reason.
but you go into any of the mass transit, and they have like the what do you call it, the metal detectors that you go through, and sometimes like if you're carrying a backpack, like the security guard will like they'll do the perfunctory, they'll look inside, but they're not, but even like when I worked in China, like in Guangzhou, you go into Guangzhou and like you have to, like, it's almost like going into an airport, like you have to put your backpack like into an x-ray machine, and so they they,
So
they
it's
do take
something
their
routine.
security. Yeah,
Security checks are so routinely happening over there,
yeah,
performed. Okay.
it's I don't know how thorough they are, like, even like they've asked to look in my bag, and they just kind of like, like there's like four pockets on my backpack, and they'll look in one. I'm like, okay, so that was pretty simple.
Don't say that. These jihadis
Yeah,
will listen to that.
yeah, well, I'm sure
Anyway,
they figured it out for themselves. So
okay. Anyway, let's not give more clues into this.
yeah,
So
well,
I
this I
think I
I
have.
I started writing a book like 30 years ago. So
Mm,
this was a year after there'd been, was it 93 was the first attack. There was a truck bomb in the parking lot of the World Trade Center. And then a year later, I started writing a spy novel of how the Muslim terrorists come back to the World Trade Center to finish the job. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to give these fuckers any ideas. And then 9/11 happened, 6, 7 years later.
okay.
But mine was a much, I don't want to give away the plot, but it was a much more devastating attack than what actually happened. But I'm not going to give any details. I want to give these guys ideas. So that's one of the reasons I stopped
Yeah,
writing
that's
it,
what.
because I
Let's
did
not
not
discuss
want to give
this
these guys. Yeah.
openly.
Yeah. So,
Anyway,
okay.
yeah.
So is that it for the news this week?
Yes, that's it. I'm done.
Okay. Cool. Great. Well,
Let's hope
thanks
the
everybody. Yeah.
yeah. Let's
Go
hope
ahead.
there will be peace next week at least. People will be more sane.
I think we need a couple more 100 years of declining
100 years.
religiosity, a couple of
Okay.
100 years before they
So
know
how many
that
episodes that
religious.
we have done now?
I don't know. I
Okay.
did a meme a couple of years ago about how, like, as religion declines and declines and declines in the West, that say 300 years from now, that the Vatican has been turned into a museum, because there's like hardly any Catholics
Mm,
left. So
yeah. So now, as we said, Gazans are leaving Hamas. So even The Middle East will be the Europe, and the Europe will be the Middle East very soon.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. That's not,
Okay.
great. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I
Bye.
hope you enjoyed the chat, and we'll see everybody next week. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.
Yes. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.
Peace.